Hey guys, so Lord here, back again with another review, and today we'll be taking a look at the Mattel Masterverse Masters of the Universe Revelation Target exclusive Deluxe King Grayskull. Now before we get into it here, let us first take a look-see at both the front and the back of the packaging. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now before we get into the meat and taters of this review, King Grayskull does come with a plethora of accessories. First up, King Grayskull does come with 4 interchangeable hands, the first of which is this pair of Kung Fu grip hands. The second of which is a right fist hand so he can punch your freaking lights out, and a left open hand so he can bitch slap you across the mouth. Next up, King Grayskull comes with 2 interchangeable head sculpts, the first of which is this more pissed off looking head sculpt that he comes packaged with because you don't want to buy Allstate insurance. The second of which is this more stoic looking head sculpt, and in my personal opinion, I think this one suits the character much better. Up next, King Grayskull does come with his very own He-Man-esque shield, but it should be worth noting that it is easier said than done to actually get onto his arm. So be very, very careful as you're trying to get it on there, because you do not want to risk snapping the straps on this thing. And last but certainly not least, King Grayskull comes with both halves of the Power Sword, which were of course forged in both Preternia and Subternia, and if I had to guess which half was forged where, I'm willing to bet that the one in his right hand was forged in Preternia, the one in his left was forged in Subternia. Let me know if I'm right about that in the comments below. That said, I would have liked to have gotten that little connector piece the exclusive version of Scareglow came with to kind of hold these together so we could hold them both in one hand, but take what you can get, I suppose. So with that being said, let's now move on to the aesthetics and articulation. Taking a closer look at our King Grayskull here, and while it is not my beloved 2000X interpretation of King Grayskull, I gotta tell you, man, this is probably one of my favorite Masterverse figures we've gotten thus far. And that's saying quite a bit, because y'all know Scareglow is going to be tough to beat, because Scareglow is my guy when it comes to good old Masters of the Universe. But this guy, he's got a lot going on. Like this nifty wired cape, which is very, very nice. I did have this big stupid tag on it, which I did decide to cut off because it's big and stupid and ridiculous and doesn't need to be there. Oh no, it's no longer in mint condition. I don't care. I'm not going to sell this before I die, and it's probably not going to get sold after I die either, so you know what? On that. But at any rate, I don't think I did too bad, if I do say so myself. That said, this is not as nice as, say, my Super 7 King Diamond or Papa Emeritus Ultimates or my Mezco Dr. Fate, but at the same time, he doesn't cost nearly as much as those, so I don't expect it to be. That said, it would have been nice if we got some wire running down the bottom here, because I feel like there's some missed posing opportunities just having it on the sides. And this is an issue I had with the Collect and Connect Trigon figure many, many years ago when I finished him, and I say that because he too is a Mattel figure. They put the wire through the bottom and on the sides, but not the top. And this is kind of a reverse of that. They put it through the top and the sides, but not the bottom. Kind of get why they didn't put it through the bottom, though, because he does have all these tatters and whatnot. But it would have been nice if we got maybe one down the middle. I think that would have been kind of cool. Or maybe a couple other of these tassels had the wire going through it. But that's asking for a lot, I know. But it would have made posing the cape a little bit more natural, but it's a bonus. I didn't expect him to have this at all, so I'm not going to deduct points for the implementation here. I don't really grade these things, do I? But you guys know what I mean. it's a nice thought. It's the thought that counts, we'll say. But it does look nice, just kind of sitting behind him, which is more or less how I'm going to have it. And I will say, he did have some little plastic T's or I's or whatever you want to call it. If you buy a lot of clothes, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They're lodged in the little tips of his cape here. There's like 4 of them. Be very, very careful removing that stuff. This is felt, so it's a little bit on the thicker side as far as fabric goes, but you still don't want to rip this thing because it is a Target exclusive and not necessarily easy to find. It seems like each store is getting like 2 of each of these. That said, taking a closer look at that mug of his, looks a lot like Thulsa Doom from Conan to me, but that's just me. Get my hand behind there. He's almost blended in with the background. My apologies for that. But he's got his braided ponytails in the front and in the back. And the big kind of, I gotta say, his cape also has a very Christmas vibe to it. Very Santa Claus-ish. Which reminds me a lot of the MOTU Classics King Grayskull, which was based off the 2000X version. So, really, if you wanted to, you could take the cape and harness from this guy. Maybe not even the harness, but at least the cape. And the Savage He-Man head. And put it on the He-Man we already got. The first wave one. And have yourself a custom 2000X style King Grayskull. I might try that at some point. I don't have Savage He-Man, but I do have the regular He-Man, of course. And I think that'd be really cool. But at any rate, as far as articulation on this guy goes, his head will rotate side to side. He'll look up and down. Not hindered by the cape a whole lot, so that's nice. His shoulders move forward and back. Out to the side pretty far. Back down. He's got a bicep swivel. Double joint at the elbow, which is always kind of stiff, but on this side it's not too bad. Hands will rotate and hinge in and out. I will say his hands do not plug in the best. They are a little bit loose for my taste, so be wary about that when you're putting accessories in his hands. You might knock them out. Might have to plug them back in. Just a little bit of a nitpick there. His diaphragm joint can click forward, click back, a little teeny bit, tilt side to side, not a whole lot of rotation. And again, I wish they would figure something out here. I think this could be a double ball peg and be a little bit more effective, but they seem to be settling for this for now, so it'll probably be a while before we get anything else for the torso. But it's whatever, it works good enough, I suppose. He does have a waist swivel, which is a little tricky to get to with everything going on here. And then the legs, from the waist down, this figure should seem very familiar to all of you, because it is basically He-Man in different colors. The legs move forward and back, out, back down, thigh cut, double joint at the knee. Mine, this side's tight on the bottom joint there. Go. Oof. Gee whiz. Bottom knee is tight on that side. What about this side? No, this side's not too bad. Knees on mine aren't super stiff other than this one joint I had to free up, so careful with that. I wanna hashtag don't break your toys. Been a while since I said that, hasn't it? That said, another side note, hips are great on this guy. I didn't have to do any modifications to these. It just worked right out of the package. So they're getting a little bit better with these hips. I did have to heat up and lube up Triclops, but I didn't have to do it to Stinkor. I didn't have to do it to this guy. So that is thumbs up in my book. He's got boot cut. Hinge in the foot. I almost said single joint in the foot. Well, of course, you can only put one in there. If you put in 2, that would look stupid. He's got a rocker and peg holes at the bottom of the feet for the handy-dandy McFarlane stands, which work great with these guys. So if you're not using them for your multiverse, you can use them on these guys. That's King Grayskull in a nutshell, man. He's really cool. I dig him. you can never go wrong with somebody who wants to sell you Allstate insurance, but at the same time can totally whoop your ass. That said, I would like to see a dub of Revelation where this guy's voiced by Keith David. Because while I don't mind the Allstate guy doing his voice, I think Keith David's a little bit more badass, and that would have made a little bit more sense. I said Phil Lamar is Hero, and we're supposed to be getting him a little bit later this year, so that's exciting. But at any rate, with that being said, let's now move on and take a look at some size comparisons. First up here is King Grayskull next to a couple other male figures in the Masterverse line, He-Man and Scareglow. Next up here he is alongside a couple of female figures from the Masterverse line, Evelyn and Teela. And last but certainly not least, we have our two regulars, the Mythic Legion's Brother Mandibulus, 11 Spawn, who's not necessarily towering over King Grayskull, but he is ever so slightly taller. But with that being said, time to wrap things up with some final thoughts. Overall, and even though this is not my beloved 2000X interpretation of good old King Grayskull here, it's not what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be King Grayskull as he appeared in the Masters of the Universe Revelation series. And even though he wasn't in the Netflix series for that long, he was a little bit more prominent in the comic book series of the same name. So I would highly suggest you check that out if you want some more King Grayskull action. This version of King Grayskull, I should say. And since there has been zero confirmation that Revelation, 2000X, and even Filmation are connected in any way, shape, or form outside of some character reuse, because obviously, I'm totally okay with this, and I really like this figure, and to be quite honest with you, this is by far one of my favorite figures in the Masterverse line thus far, and even though he has some things I'm not too crazy about with Masterverse, particularly the torso cut, I wish they'd figure out something different for that, but it seems to me like they're settling for that at this point. We probably won't see anything different for a while, but that said, other than that, he does have a really nice wired cloth cape, and while it isn't quite as nice as the cloth capes on my Super 7 Ultimates or Mezco Dr. Fate, this guy doesn't cost as much as those, so I don't expect it to. That said, also, I would have liked to have seen a way for them to connect the two halves of the Power Sword together. Maybe give us an extra piece like the exclusive Scareglow had. On top of the fact that his shield is also a little bit tricky to get on his arm there. Be careful with that. You don't want to risk breaking that strap because this guy is a Target exclusive after all, and some exclusives are easier to find than others, no matter where they happen to be exclusive to. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you are so inclined, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know whenever I upload more reviews like this one. If you haven't already, please hit me up on Instagram at Overlord Productions. But as always, keep the comments civil, because the world sucks enough as it is, especially when your favorite sword gets split in half. Like, that's just a bad day, man. And until next time, I'll catch you guys later.